Welcome, Sharks fans, to Pucknology After Dark for the game after the New York Rangers on October 19th, 2015. The Sharks fall to the Rangers 4-0. I am joined by Rocket Backhander, Ian Reed, and Mr. Puck Guy himself, coming live from the back room of a produce department. If you guys want to be part of the show, take a look at this graphic. We've got everybody's up here, and tweet at us with the hashtag Pucknology After Dark to any one of us. We'll get the message, and we will take your tweets live. So, lady and gentlemen, how are you guys doing tonight? Anybody?
Fantastic.
Oh, you know.
You know what I'm hungry for, guys? You know what I'm
Huh?
hungry for? I'm hungry for some turnovers. Nice Pepperidge Farm apple turnovers. That's what I think.
Do you like whipped cream with your turnovers? I'm kind of a whipped cream guy myself.
I'm not into getting the whip. Just doesn't feel good.
Well, perfect segue because the Sharks are.
Oh. They'll be here all night, folks. Don't forget to tip your waitresses and enjoy the veal.
That's true.
So, leading off, I called this one. I said Saturday night. I said if the Sharks bring the effort that they brought into the New York Islanders or the New Jersey Devils, they were going to get their butts handed to them by the Rangers. I said that transition game was monstrous. I said that defense will hem you in. And what happened? The defense hemmed them in, and it was a monstrous transition game. Yeah, I'm a little salty. You guys can tell.
Add some pepper on it, a little paprika. It might turn out to be a nice, tasty dish for you to feed yourself down the road, right?
No, too high in sodium, dude.
I have bad cholesterol too.
I'm diabetic.
Well, there you go. So we all got health issues, but
I just only getting bloated.
All right. So I guess what's your initial impressions, guys and lady?
Go ahead, Rocket.
Okay. When I was in high school, I really didn't study for tests. I mean, I did, sorta, but for the most part, I was very fortunate in that I aced all of my tests. Unfortunately, the class setup was such that somewhere akin to 50% of your grade was based off of how much of your homework you turned in. So even though I aced all the tests, I failed most of my classes or got D's because I just didn't bother to do the homework. This game is sort of, it feels like that. It feels like there was a lot of raw talent out there and a lot of skill and a lot of energy, but there just wasn't the discipline and the study behind it in order to make it a successful grade. Thereby, the Sharks failed tonight, but that's only one test in the course of the year.
You make a great point there, Rocket. And I would kind of jumping off of that a little bit, where it seemed like they have everything prepared. They look like they're ready to go. But I think the injury bug is in their heads. What happened in Brooklyn got into their heads. And the fact that they're getting on a plane and coming home in about a couple hours is in their heads, and they know who their next opponent is, and they can't wait to beat the crap out of them. So they're like, we had a good run this road trip, but that's it. Yeah, definitely not give a puck effort tonight, and it shows. And you can't have too many of those because I think LA plays one more time before they play us. And if that's the case and they win their game, they're only 2 points behind the Sharks after starting that awful start.
Yeah, I said you got to bank those wins early, and or else that lead's going to slip right through your fingers because we saw it last year, right at the beginning. parallel script, and this team is better than what they played out tonight and on Saturday night. But boy, you can't have an effort like this. Ian, what were your initial thoughts?
Well, just to go, off of what you said there about things we saw last year, like this defense core right now without Paul Martin, I think it just shows how important Paul Martin's been to this defense core, because this defense core without him is worse than last year's, to be honest. I think, DeMello or Tennyson could be a sixth, but neither of those guys is a fifth. Burns Dillon is a nightmare, which leaves everything on Vlasic Braun, which, and even Braun didn't look fantastic tonight. Like, the defense was brutal tonight. Just brutal. Like, there's no polite way to put it. It was awful. Yeah, Jones probably, could have had maybe one or two of those shots, but, you let Rick Nash just wander to the front of the net and power play, no one touches him. These things are going to happen.
No, I totally agree. I thought that the defensive zone coverages were horrible. I thought Dillon, again, was inept in his own zone. And what surprises me is that we've got still people who think that he is a top 4 defenseman in this league, and right now he's showing he's like a 6'7" kind of defenseman. Like I said on Saturday, you can't let guys 2 feet, 5 feet in the blue paint or in the slot and just go untouched, because they're going to score from there. And what did you saw? You saw a defenseman get behind him and place a soft chip into the goal. And now, it wasn't totally Dillon's fault. I think Martin Jones overplayed it a little bit. He went for the poke check, kind of an aggressive move there, and while kind of in that motion, he kind of lifts his, right pad up, and the puck just kind of trickles in. So it's just, goalies can cover up a bad defense for only so long. So long.
No, they can cover up a bad defense. They can't cover up an atomically nuclear explosionally terrible blown off the face of the earth defense. Like,
I think we've got AJ coming in. AJ, are you there?
I'd be here, boys and girls.
It's very dark.
Live, coming to you live from the poorhouse in San Francisco.
Very nice.
Very nice. So what are your
poorhouse with a P, ladies and gentlemen?
Yes, if that didn't come over the line very good. AJ, what were your initial thoughts on the game?
Oh, I don't know. I didn't watch any of it. I was listening to it on the way up here.
Well, maybe it was a good thing you didn't watch.
I didn't see a goddamn thing. It sounded bad. It sounded like we had a couple decent looks in the first period, according to Ruzanowski. Heard it was wide open in the second. Heard that there was a clusterfuck of a play in the last 30 seconds of the second period on a breakaway, and then just caught the score updates. Either way, the bottom line is, what are you going to do when your stud of a defenseman and your stud of a second center is, lost for however long it's going to be? That's a huge problem.
Yeah. All right,
we're bitten by the injury bug right now, and you know what? Let's get this shit out of the way now. Let's build up some confidence in the younger guys who are filling in, like Goldie and Lurg, and we'll try to do something with that, and then hopefully we're like full squad, before Thanksgiving.
Well, let me put this into perspective for everybody. So the Sharks had 30 face-off wins to New York Rangers 20. And in those 30 face-off wins, the Sharks had 22 shots on goal by the end of the game, and about, I want to say, 4 to 5 of those came in garbage time. So we'll say about a 17-shot night. And the way Antti Ranta was playing, that's not good enough. And if you're starting with the puck the majority of the time and not getting shots off, that tells me one of two things. That tells me that either the forwards are trying to pass it to each other and not shoot on net, and that the pucks from the defensemen keep hitting defenders in the offensive zone. And I saw a lot of that tonight. I saw Dillon, I saw Braun put it into skates way too much tonight.
21 block shots for the Rangers tonight.
Was there a reason why King Henrik wasn't in the nets tonight?
This was a scheduled day off.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the second game of a back-to-back for the Rangers.
He was getting a laser peel.
Yeah. So it just, it was one of those games where the possession stats might say that we were even with the Rangers, maybe even better, but the effort was just not there. The overall finish and polish on this team was just not there. Not executing at all.
Something that I'd add, though, I mean, this is credit to the Rangers' defense, is a lot of those shots that the Sharks did end up getting, like the Rangers' defense held them out to the outside for the most part. So maybe they possessed the puck, but who cares if you're possessing it around the perimeter? If you can't get the puck into the slot, what's the point?
It just fed their transition game, though. I mean, you were seeing way too many 3-on-2s, 2-on-1s, 3-on-1s. It was horrible.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, just to change the subject real fast and break it up, the one thing about that game we can all agree on that was not horrible was Rick Nash. That, I think, was the brightest spot insofar as Sharks hockey for this particular game, was his performance.
Yeah, because if he would have performed better, they would have gotten.
I love watching him hit the post consistently. That's so much fun. Thank you.
Or miss open nets,
Yes, that was even better.
I don't know if you remember, there was a push by a local sports radio guy. I want to say about 3 years ago or so, that I can't remember exactly at what point, what state the Sharks were in at this point. I don't know if it was that they just lost Heatley or whatever, but there was a local sports guy who said, you know what? The Sharks need to trade Pavelski for Rick Nash. And everybody who had their senses about him went, the fuck's this guy been smoking? And you look at what has happened over the last 3 years, and you just want to go back to that guy and go, just don't talk about hockey anymore. Just don't do it. Just stop. I mean, we all have delusions of grandeur, but just stop.
Yeah.
Anyway, my glass is almost done, and I'm going to get the fuck out of here. I just wanted to check in with you guys. I will see you all on Thursday. I might be a little sober. We'll see.
Yeah.
All right, AJ.
All right.
Thank you for checking in.
See you later.
Later. Okay, so now we got just a horrible game, and I don't know how else to put that. I mean, the execution wasn't there. The talent level was not there. You had DeBoer mixing and matching by the end of the game, and that's never a good thing.
No.
Dylan's a tire fire of a defenseman.
Hey, at least he's okay, look, he may be not the most expensive pair of shoes in my wardrobe, but at least I can wear him with more than one outfit, okay? And the one outfit that you can wear Brent Burns shoes with was not on the ice tonight. There's a couple pieces out there that at least you can pair Dylan with, and they can make something happen that complements what's going on out there, okay? So you want to, yes, talent-wise, on an individual skater, player, hockey sense level, Burns will orbit any of the other defensemen. But unfortunately, it's not based off of just that singular mindset. You have to look at how well you can use this talent with other pieces on your team. The less we can use Brent Burns with the other defensemen in this lineup, the more of a liability he becomes.
Right.
So,
no, totally agreed. Because
before you go bashing on Dylan, I just want to point out that Mr. Burnsy is not necessarily the best golden Buddha love child, beautiful, blameless, faultless thing either. Okay, so just
no. I gotcha, and I think that's a good point, because we bring up two separate issues, and I want to go to Ian. What's on your mind, Ian?
Well, the other thing too is kind of going back with what you're saying about line combinations. The line combinations up front were kind of curious to me too, because Lurg isn't a center. Lurg's a winger. So you had no real center on the fourth line, and then you roll them out for 10 minutes. Like, I thought if you're gonna roll that line out with Lurg and not Smith, sorry, but Brown and Gaudreau, maybe they have a 5-minute night. And I was kind of surprised that they saw the ice as much as they did, because they weren't good. That line wasn't good at all.
No, it wasn't. And by the end, you had Goldobin of all people on that line, and it was like,
yeah, that makes sense.
and yeah, it's like, okay, bury a top offensive talent in the bottom four or bottom three, excuse me.
Well, but he had him with that first line, and then he switched him over to the second line in the second period, and then he switched him to the fourth line in the third period.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, no.
Goldie got turned.
That he did. But going back to the defense, just to finish off where I was going with this point, but you've got Burns, who is, like I said, a wicked offensive talent, but is a liability, to say the least, in his own zone. And you've got him paired with a defenseman who I think is trying to overcompensate for Burns. So I think that also highlights Dylan's issue, is that he's trying to overcompensate for Burns in the defensive zone, and by doing that, he's making more mistakes. So this is not a shit on Dylan kind of fest, although I think he has his issues, but him being with Burns magnifies those issues.
Oh,
Exactly.
no, they're terrible. I hate them together. I absolutely hate them together. But that's because you can't pair Brent Burns with anybody except for Paul Martin. Wait, no, Martin Jones? Paul Martin.
Paul Martin.
I get my Martins confused this year. I'm sorry.
No, and so you just hope that this injury that he's got is not a big deal, and from what it sounds like, it's not. I mean, we've heard Kerr saying, "Oh, he was walking around fine." Peter DeBoer was quoted as saying he's day to day. So I mean, we heard that about Carlson too, and for all we know, he's got mono. So
he's skating in a red shirt. Okay, so and I still think he has mono.
Man, I don't even. Yeah, that's the thing too. Like, if you look at just the names of people depleted, like this is a really depleted roster right now. Like, there's.
Oh yeah.
I can't think of another team right now that is skating with so many of their regulars missing. When you consider Torres on suspension, and then you just go down the list of guys that played in the roster last year. You can include Carlson, even though he's assigned to the Barracuda right now. Obviously Logan Couture is a huge bloody hole that you just don't replace Logan Couture. I mean, that's the problem there, right? I mean, it's like there's just a couple of guys on this team that you don't replace, and Couture is one of them. As much as sometimes I bag on him, like, you're seeing how important he is to this team now.
So I put it to you guys. Do you think it's time to break up the Thornton Pavelski tandem? I kind of brought this up a little bit on the game against New Jersey, and saying that Hertl is just not getting it done as a second line center. I think the creativity is there. I just don't like his defensive zone game. Although he wasn't bad in the faceoffs tonight.
No, he wasn't bad.
But I just think that deploying a Thornton, Pavelski, Hertl, Tierney 1, 2, 3, 4 center spot is more beneficial at this point than trying to keep one power line and overutilizing them. What do you guys think?
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. I mean, the reason the Sharks have been so successful to this point was because they were just rolling lines and there was depth. And right now, we've pretty much got all our eggs on the first line. Our second line, again, missing Couture's. They haven't really sorted that out. I mean, they've got to split their wealth out, especially if they're going to keep playing. If you're going to go down the lineup and you're going to keep playing, big minutes not big minutes, but big enough for a fourth line, and even the third line. So I mean, we need to spread that wealth around, or else we're just gonna keep seeing the same result.
Yeah. Rocket? What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with Ian. I think we should start to spread that wealth around, but I also think we shouldn't do it on the fly in the middle of a game.
True. No, and I think we were seeing DeBoer being pretty stubborn with the Pavelski Thornton tandem and not wanting to split that up. We've seen other coaches before want to do duo tandem, so it seems like Marlowe and Ward are pretty much attached at the hip. and we're seeing Tierney and Wingles.
Mhm.
Well, starting to develop that. I don't think that they're as married on that third and fourth line. I think they're a little more fluid, but definitely Ward Marlowe, definitely Couture, or excuse me, Thornton and Pavelski.
Pavelski.
Yeah. So in my mind, I think it's time to start letting go of the duos and just trying to make sure that your center depth is set first, and then we can start filling in pieces, right? Because when you have Carlson back and when you have Donskoy back, those are going to be two pretty competent wingers
Yep.
that you could.
That's so far down the way, though, looking at Carlson realistically. I mean, to be
Yeah.
quite frankly, how long he's been out and how long he has to finish his recovery and get back up to speed to be at an NHL level. I mean, I'm a newbie here, okay? I haven't been doing this for a year.
Mhm.
But I sincerely, the slowness of his progress, I don't think we're going to see him until Raffy's back.
Wow. So you think it's going to be
I think it's January.
20 plus games, huh? So about the same time we see Couture, maybe?
I don't know. And then again, I don't know if they're rushing his recovery because of how much they're bleeding in the depth because of all these injuries too, which makes me kind of worry about, well, is that going to hurt him in the long run? Is he, when he comes back, is he really going to be back, or is he quote unquote good enough to be back for the NHL? I just really worry about that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree because they rushed Hurdle back in the playoffs.
Yeah.
He wasn't ready, and the Sharks have had a history of doing that. But I mean, the Sharks aren't the only
timing
people.
On that just seemed a little suspect. That Melker's out, or excuse me, yeah, Carlson's out. He's not at practice. He's not at practice. Bam, bam, bam. A whole bunch of guys get injured. Oh, all of a sudden he's at practice, but he's a redshirt. But hey, he's here.
Yeah.
He's getting better. It's like, is he, or are you guys pushing him?
Well,
Yeah.
that's the thing too. I mean, he basically missed training camp, and it's going to take a while to get up to speed. You can't stress how important training camp is. I mean, if you watch any player that's held out on a contract, I mean, that one year that we, when pretty much
Doughty,
Lombardi
right?
and well, no, I'm saying when Lombardi and Sutter both got shown the door, it was because Nabokov held out, and we were just not the same that year. We got destroyed that year.
Yeah, no, I was thinking the other Lombardi holdout. No, I totally agree, and I think we're, at least for Carlson, I think we're looking at least a 10 to 15 game layout before we actually see any kind of signs of significant progress, whether or not it's his full rehab in the Barracuda, or whether or not he does finally get to see some time up in San Jose. But I agree, I don't see him coming up right after his injury. I see him maybe rehabbing for at least 5 games. If I were the GM, I'd have him play at least 5 games, at least. But again, I think we're still going to be, that's still going to be a little whiles out. So, I mean, no cap room. I mean, you've got maybe 1.2 million. So there's
Not
no help.
even. There's like less than 500,000 at work. Less than 500,000.
Right, with all the shuffling going on.
Right. And then, I mean, we technically have some relief because Couture is on the LTIR officially now, but are you going to make a big move, and then then what do you do when he comes back, right? Like, you're kind of rocking.
How much could we rent Irwin for?
Oh my goodness, that would not make things better.
No, that yeah. I mean, I'm trying to think of.
I'm just trying to think of somebody we could buy really cheap without a felony record.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't know. So Lauren just tweeted in. She says Melko Carlson resumed practice with the Barracuda on Monday. Yeah, he did.
He did, but he's not wearing a contact jersey, which is
not wearing a contact jersey, and probably not cleared for any kind of game shape or any kind of game trials, maybe for at least another week or two. And then she also replies, but the team hasn't set a timetable for his return for game action. And yeah, I mean, we just don't know at this point what's going on. It's, I saw somebody saying like an Achilles heel thing, or could it be a groin, or I don't know.
We would have seen him limping. Somebody would have seen him limping. Somebody would have said something about him limping.
Yeah.
Well, he got it before he came into camp, which is weird too. Like, you know what though? You say that, but I mean, it's not like we have like the best media coverage, especially when they're on the road.
Sure.
Like, yeah, especially when they're on the road. You know, basically all the local people seem to be getting stuff secondhand from, you know, across the way. So I don't know what to say about that. Like, the other thing too that I would bring up too with Carlson is that, you know, again, even if he is practicing, you know, can he come up to the NHL right away? I don't think so. He's still gonna need some time in the AHL. And I don't know what they do. Like, it's the defense is an issue. I mean, obviously, if Donskoy comes back, I think that helps things a little bit because we can kind of shuffle things back down a little bit again. But you know, they got to do something other than this. They got to do something with this fourth line if they're going to play it so much.
No, the fourth line and and that 5-6 D spot to try and get Dylan away from Burns.
Burns, yeah. You know, I think there's going to be enough time between now and the meeting against LA that they'll be able to really look at the lineup and figure out where they need to put their pieces. I think you're right in that Peter DeBoer tends to marry his upper pairs, but not his bottom pairs. So that kind of makes me think that the more something works, the less he wants to mess with it. So as we get into the situation where we don't have the depth to play like that anymore, I think that he's going to see this if he hasn't clearly been made obvious to him already. And I think that there's going to be some adjustments made. You'll probably hear about some line changes in the practices in the next couple of days, but I doubt very much you'll see this repeated changes of the lines during the game.
Yeah, well, and it's interesting too because Dylan only had 21 minutes, and last game he was about 26, 27, so that's a pretty significant drop off. And then Burns was at 25. His last count was 29 minutes, so he got decreased by 4. So it is a little interesting to see the defensive deployments. I mean, Braun and Vlasic were about 22, 23 minutes apiece, which is pretty good. And looking at DeMello, he had 14 minutes, and then looking at Tennyson had 13 minutes. So it was that's a pretty good distribution. I'm not upset with that, but what I am upset with is the pairing, and I think, I mean, I don't know if you can take Braun away from Vlasic at this point because Braun becomes mediocre when he's away from Vlasic for whatever reason.
That's it.
I've seen Braun and Dylan do decent things.
Yeah, I've seen Braun. I remember the Braun-Burns pairing was okay. It wasn't the best thing in the world, but it was okay. But he's a
serviceable defenseman.
That Dylan Burns pairing, man, it's just gotta be changed.
No, it's like a kitten heel and a flip flop. You cannot put that pair together.
Yeah.
No, they just need to put Burns with Vlasic and suck it up.
Yeah.
That's my opinion. Like, you need to put, like, if anyone, like, out of all our defensemen, Vlasic's the only one that's going to be even remotely able to cover for Burns's, you know, wandering and stuff. And I like Burns, don't get me wrong, but, you know, again, like I said right off the top of the show, this is the same defense we had last year, if not worse.
Yeah.
Like, it just goes. And the defense was a huge issue last year. And unfortunately, we have a pretty decent pipeline, it looks like, although, you know, Bergman's not exactly getting a whole lot of Barracuda playing time, which is concerning. But again, you know, like this, we don't have an immediate solution. You know, Paul Martin was supposed to be our immediate solution, and it's not like Paul Martin doesn't have an injury history, so we kind of knew this risk going in.
No, true. And I think the one good thing that I think is kind of glossed over by the fact that Doug Wilson painted himself into a corner with all this cap space that we don't have anymore, is that he doesn't have the ability to make a stupid trade of young players for a aging person. So that I do, you know, it is a good thing that he spent all of his money at one time because now he can't make a stupid trade, you know, and like, God forbid, trade, you know, Jeremy Waugh for somebody, you know, for like Chara, you know, an aging Chara, you know. So at least there's that. But you know, I think for me, let's say we have Paul Martin out for another 2 to 3 games. At this point, I'd say you put Vlasic with Burns.
Mhm.
I think you put Braun with Tennyson, and I like DeMello with Dillon. And the reason why I say DeMello with Dillon, and it's going to screw up the left-hand, right-hand thing, I know, but
Well, DeMello's already playing his offside anyway.
exactly, DeMello's playing on his offside, and DeMello is a stay-at-home kind of guy. And I think we all wanted Dillon to be that kind of a defenseman, but he's not. He's more of a two-way kind of defenseman where he thinks offense sometimes, he thinks defense sometimes. He just doesn't have his mind mind made up in the right spots. So I think he needs a stabilizer, and I trust Braun and Tennyson enough together more than I would trust Braun and Dillon together. Although we did see that a little bit last year, and it was okay.
It wasn't terrible. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
I just don't like it at all. I mean, it's just such a recipe for disaster. It's not a good defense core, and it sucks that one injury just exploits just how terrible that defensive depth is. The forward depth is okay. We didn't really get much offense going, but I just think that has, you have to credit the New York Rangers defense again for that. They did a good job of holding our shooters out to the perimeter, where Ronta's just going to eat that stuff up.
Ronta was
on a goalie from a blue line when he's going to see it the whole way coming in.
Ronta had that whole thing on lock this evening. Good lord.
He didn't face that many hard shots though. Like
it was what,
shots were
21?
pretty routine.
It
was by the end of the game it was 22 shots, and
yeah.
And like I said, 4 or 5 of those came in garbage time. So there were a couple shots that I remember seeing him take or make. One against Hurdle where he kind of sprawled out his left leg and made a toe save on Hurdle, and that Ward deflection into the 5-hole area, where he kind of just closed it right up because his pass kind of got a little deflected. Ward to Marlowe, I think it was. Ward to Hurdle. Was it Hurdle or was it? I think it was. I know it was Ward making the pass to either Hurdle or Marlowe. So, it was. It just wasn't a good game. It was just.
Yeah.
You had Joe Thornton making bad passes, and you'd rarely see that.
I saw Pavelski make a bad pass.
I saw Pavelski pass on a shoot-first situation. That really made me upset.
Yeah, because Pavelski's the guy you expect to shoot.
Yeah,
right.
That was painful.
Yeah, and it just felt like, man, they just reverted back to the same old Sharks from yore, And it's like nothing changed. And I think, if anything, that's what makes me the most concerned, is because we talked about, all the good feeling, all the goodwill that had been built up in the first 4 games, and we said, look, if they kind of go back to the way they were playing, we kind of saw it a little bit in New Jersey, we saw it a little bit in the Islanders, and we saw it a lot tonight. If they go back to the way they were playing, they're just not a good team.
Nope.
Not good. And I'm confident that things can get restored, but really it's going to take some out of the box thinking, I think.
Yeah.
It's going to take more practice.
And healthy bodies.
Yeah, all of the systems that they've learned at camp, like, they're still learning it. They know it enough to go through it, but it's not muscle reflex second nature to them yet. If they come home and just put in some good practices and they refocus and they still all fully believe in it, which no one's given me any inclination through anything that they're like, nah, whatever, nah. Like, everyone is still 100% on board with this. So
right.
they just need to come home and practice, and it'll come. Like, I think it'll click and it'll happen. They just need to practice, and they will, and get healthy, like Ian said.
And I mean, we're still first in the division, and I mean, so Vancouver has played 6 games. They've got 8 points. We've got a regulation win on them, so we beat them in the tiebreaker. And then Arizona's
so weird.
I know. We got Arizona, who's kind of nipping at our heels too. They've got a game coming up, and so do the Kings.
They got to come back down to earth at some point, though.
The Desert Dogs?
The Desert They gotta come back to earth at some point. Like that's, I just can't see that being a thing all year. But I said that about Calgary last year, and look where that got me.
Yeah, so I mean, so we're 4-2 right now. So I mean, I don't want to be all hands panicking, but
No.
like I said, this kind of game is really one of those red warning flags early in the season. It's just like, boy, you don't want to be seeing this going forward.
No, sir.
Yeah, it's just tough. It's tough, but we came out of the road trip 500. So that's good. You got one in a back-to-back against Jersey and New York Islanders. That's good. So it wasn't a total loss, but it was disappointing at the end. Those last two games really put a stomp on the first four.
The first four, though, I mean, we played some quote-unquote good teams, but they weren't playing well. I mean, this is, the thing that concerns me is that when we actually played teams that were playing well, I know the Rangers have lost a few games of late, but they're still a good, we knew going in, the Rangers are still going to be one of the better teams in the East. Islanders are going to be one of the better teams in the East. I mean, I think that's the concerning part to me is that, is not standing up against, some of the better teams in the league. And I thought, in the Islanders game, and especially this one, we just looked not even, we were outclassed in this one against the Rangers tonight.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I agree, but we also have to think about the injuries too, and it's not a fair comparison.
For sure.
It's not a fair comparison, but I totally agree. They looked outmatched, outclassed, outgunned. I mean, it just wasn't good in all facets of the game.
Yeah.
And these are the kind of games that really kind of get me upset because it's one, they're not playing up to their opponent. Two, they're looking forward to ending a road trip, and you can see it.
Correct.
Like they're just.
Oh yeah.
The mental mistakes to me show me that they weren't engaged at all. I mean, it just was like, okay, we're flying out. I'm got my head in the clouds, thinking about going home, and forget about we're playing a game against the Rangers.
Yeah, I thought we'd show up better. I mean, again, injuries aside, and I definitely don't want to take away from the injuries. I've said again, credit again and again to the Rangers defense. It's one of the best defense cores in the league. The other thing too is just, but you'd hope for a better effort against a Rangers team that was on the second half of a back-to-back. Whereas I found the Rangers outskated the Sharks pretty much the whole game. When they're on the second end of a back-to-back, and I think that's just, if I'm Peter DeBoer, that's unacceptable.
Do you know how many back-to-backs do the Sharks have this year? Like 3?
I don't have the schedule in front of me, so I'm not sure.
The New
I
York
thought it
Rangers
was. I thought it was in the upwards of like 10 to 11.
I think
Probably.
New York Rangers has something like 13 back-to-backs this year, and none of their road trips are over 2 days. So
No, three games. Yeah, I remember that. So none of their road trips are over 3 games, and they have 13 back-to-backs.
yeah, exactly. So if you want to put it like that, they're outclassed, outmatched everything else, and they're also not on the tail end of a road trip.
Well, the thing is, though, is that road trip to argue that point back. Yes, road point full of injuries, but it's not like the Sharks went to Chicago to Carolina to, this was like New York, New Jersey, New York. Like
That's like 4 hours on a bus.
And if you want to add the DC part too, I mean, but that's DC to New York.
4 hours and 45 minutes on a bus.
Yeah, right. Like it's not like this was like a grueling, silly road trip where they go to Winnipeg, back to Edmonton, out to Minnesota, over to Detroit. Like it wasn't one of those.
And then back to Calgary.
Right.
I forget that the Sharks are the team that they get kicked out of SAP every February, so they have to do the death march. So the NHL schedules all of their away trips through all of that stretch. I know they don't do it anymore, but I remember that lots of people had explained to me that's why all of those games were all away games, is because we didn't have a place to play.
Well,
right. Well, that's been corrected.
So coming in on Twitter, Lauren says, side note, love Rocket's scarf and hairdo.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I wear a lot of teal.
It's a good color.
I agree. Especially in San Jose.
Yeah. So just one of those kind of games. But you know what? They happen. And look at the Rangers. I mean, when Hurdle had his rookie season, he scored 4 goals on them, and they went to the Cup final that year.
That's right.
It's crazy to think about that, but like we have said, the injuries stacked up. The defense core. I mean, you saw how riddled it was. I mean, that's not a Stanley Cup defense in no way, shape, or form. And so it exposed them. But like everybody said, it's a good thing that's happening at the beginning of the year, and hopefully you can work from that. Hopefully you can create some kind of system or some kind of confidence that when the regulars are out, you can thrive. And that's what I said. I said if the Sharks can thrive in the next 15 to 20 games while Couture is out, I have a good feeling about this team.
So you think if they can maintain their identity, then
exactly. If let's say worst case scenario, in the next 20 games we go 500, so 10-10. That doesn't necessarily sink your season, and then you'll get reserves back, and then you can make a big push. I don't want them to go 10-10. I mean, I'm not settling for mediocrity, but I think a reasonable expectation is probably something like 12-8.
16-4.
Well, that's that's shooting for the stars.
Confidence, damn it! I believe in this team.
But I mean, so like I said, if they can thrive with these injuries, then I have a good feeling about it. But if they continually play like this, where it's going to be a long season, even with Martin Jones. I mean, who I think is still a #1 goaltender, even after tonight. But when he's got a defense core in front of him that's playing like that, it's hard to stop anything.
No, exactly. I don't really, like I said, I don't put this out on Jones. I mean, did Jones have his best game? No, of course not. Not at all. But at the same time, like, he has to have some help in front. Like, it's not like, he's not inhuman. He's still a goalie that needs defense. Like, it's a team game, and you can't just, get all pissy about, Martin Jones not stopping, all the pucks and letting in only 1 goal every 2 games. Like, that was never going to continue. So we're going to have games like this, unfortunately, and he's going to have games like this. And you're going to hear a lot of stuff now about, this is DeBoer's fault because he put Stalock in the other game. I still back that decision. I don't think that with Martin Jones not playing as many games as as a starter in his career, I mean, you don't want to run him 40 games into the ground.
I
agree.
I totally agree. I mean, the only thing that I think at this point is a valid debate for me is whether or not you started Stalock versus Jersey. But like I said after the Jersey game, if Stalock had played that game, he would have gotten lit up because the Sharks let some prime scoring chances on Jones, and he stole one. One.
Yeah.
He absolutely did.
And if anything, this is a defensive construction deal for me. Oh, we've got Puck Guy back.
Hey.
Yeah, I actually have to do some sort of a job back here, so had to jump off and get something done and lay down the law quickly. So
I see.
So we've kind of covered all the bases between forwards and defense and goaltending. Eric, do you have any thoughts on any of those wide, massive subjects?
Well, hopefully the forwards can score. Hopefully the defense can defend, and hopefully the goaltenders can stop the puck. No, to be honest, they sounded like they kind of went back on their original ways of sorts. How they were just passing, and then you have that 4-on-2, and it gets broken up without a shot on goal.
I know.
And then it goes down the other way, and they score. I mean, that's just a nightmare. That's awful. The defense has to be a whole lot better. As much as we miss Paul Martin, the defense just has to be better than that. I mean, to just let chances go by, and then the one with 10 seconds left with the face-off in your own zone, you give up a 2-on-1. That just is ridiculous.
Yep.
How do you do that? I mean, that goes to the forwards where you have to win the face-offs. Whether it's in your zone, their zone, the neutral zone, you got to get on those. Otherwise, you're just asking for trouble.
No, and I mean, but like I was saying before, I primered it with the Sharks won 30 faceoffs to New York's 20, and you're winning faceoffs, you're getting possession. It's just those shots aren't getting through, or they're going the other way in the transition, and that shows me that it's mental. That shows me that they're getting that initial puck possession, and then just directing those shots on goal is not happening because either a mental mistake, a wanting to pass, shooting it in a defender's skates. I mean, what was it? 21 block shots? Is that what you said, Ian?
Yeah,
21 block shots. That's crazy.
It's 21 block shots, and a lot of those shots came from like I said, the peripheral. There was no real, get in the slot and shoot, or there was no push to the net. Everything was coming from the outside.
Yeah, and what happened to that net front presence that we had in the first 40?
Exactly. That's what I was just going to say, Landy. That was the key thing to what they were doing when it was working out so well, was net front presence, getting shots, getting on the rebounds, getting on those loose pucks. You can't let those go. And then on the power play tonight, where they're just giving up shorthanded chances left and right, that's where the momentum really changed. I mean, they were down 1-0 getting a power play and then just falling apart.
That 5-on-3 looked like a power play for New York. So go ahead, Rocket.
I have a question. Do you think that okay, so in a situation like this where there's a lot of injuries in the NHL club and they start calling up guys from the AHL roster, do you see that there might be sort of an issue between the AHL coaches system and the NHL coaches system, in that when the AHL guys come to the NHL club, they're not sure, or they're doing different things than what the NHL focuses on? Because I know, like, we're talking about net front presence here, and I remember that the Barracuda's spectacular loss in their home opener. They tried to do a lot of really fancy stuff. They weren't doing simple passes. They just were not keeping it simple. They were making things way too complicated, and as a result, they got the pants beat out of them. So when you get these guys who are coming up, they still don't have these fundamentals of doing the basics. You know what I mean? So, like, I think right now the reason why we saw that is because the guys from the AHL roster are running under a different system and doing their best to adapt, but unfortunately not keeping as much of a net front presence as the NHL club does. That could be complete speculation. I don't know anything.
Yeah, I mean, the only guy we really brought up was Lurg. And that's just, again, I think that's more of a situation where, like I said earlier, you're bringing up a guy and you're just slotting him into a position that he doesn't naturally play. Lurg's a winger, not a center, so just playing him 10 minutes in center on the fourth line is kind of silly.
They brought up Goldie for this trip too, didn't they?
Yeah, but Goldobin's on a line with Thornton and Pavelski, so it's not like it's not hard to play with Thornton.
Not difficult.
Yeah, that and Sommer hasn't gotten his evil mind control into Goldobin's head yet, because he only played 10 games last year.
God.
But see, here's the other thing too, and you make a great point, Rocket. Sommer's been the coach, and there's been so many different systems. He was with it for Sutter. He was there for Ron Wilson. He was there for Todd McClellan, and now for Peter DeBoer. And they all have different types of systems. Sutter was more defensive. I think Wilson was more offensive, and I thought McClellan was more strategic. In that, that's where I don't understand why these guys don't have meetings with each other. Where, okay, this is how we're doing it, and now with the AHL team in San Jose, I would hope Sommer is peeking over to Bauer and saying, okay, here's how you want to do it, this is how we do it. It's kind of like how the NFL kind of copied Bill Walsh's quote-unquote West Coast offense, and you need to keep preaching, this is what we need to do, go to the net, they're teaching you, go to the net, get the shots on, puck possession, set plays. That's that's where the lack of communication within the organization could be a problem.
It could be, and you also got to throw into the mix now that Larry Robinson is the what is it, the president of hockey
director
development
of-
or
Director
director,
of
director of hockey
and
development or player
he's
personnel.
based out of Florida now, and so you wonder how much FaceTime he has between DeBoer and Sommer, and then what Wilson wants to see out of his player development, because I mean, I'm not sure what Peter DeBoer would have wanted. Would he have wanted Goldobin before he got Lurg, or would he have wanted Lurg before he got Goldobin? You know, that Goldobin call-up smelled like Doug Wilson to me. That was
the youth movement for sure.
Yeah, and so you also gotta wonder, okay, well, is DW back up to his old tricks of I want you to play these players, I'm giving you these players, you're not getting anybody else.
Almost like the Al Davis or the Daniel Snyder of running the thing, running the operations per se.
Oh, or Billy Bean, with
Right.
Art Howe and the A's. He's like, look, I'm going to trade a player that you keep playing that I don't want you to play.
Right.
So you wonder if there's some of that still going on too. Although Doug Wilson has said numerous times that Peter DeBoer was his guy, so you figure they have a good working relationship. But
at least you hope so. Otherwise, this could be all of a sudden we go from 3-0, looking like we have so much swagger, into confidence issues among teammates within 2 games. So.
Yeah, I don't think it's that bad, and I don't want us to go off that ledge yet.
Oh.
But I mean,
but I want to.
Come on, we're the Sharks fan base.
But no, I think though if we see an effort like this against the Kings, and the Kings come out and school us on home ice, that will not be pretty.
No, and that I think you kind of almost have to treat it like a must-win. With LA now having some momentum, now they're coming back into San Jose. Brown knows how to get people off their game, so keep your head up. Watch yourself, throw down a body check. In the same thing with Lucic, you're gonna have to watch out for him too.
How many more injuries are we gonna suffer from the Kings? Like, seriously.
Hopefully none.
Hopefully none, but if this happens, I think you kind of see a growing pattern, and the NHL needs to take on it quickly, because if Brown takes somebody out on Thursday night and nothing has come over it,
oh God, garbage fire! People are gonna riot in the streets.
They will riot in the streets, and they'll have a damn good reason why.
Yeah.
So guys, I'm gonna take off. Okay. You guys keep up an awesome work. I gotta make sure this place looks semi-decent for them tomorrow. So have a good night. I'll be at the tank on Thursday.
All right, Buckeye.
Have a good one.
You too.
Bye.
Bye. So last kind of wrapping up, kind of final thoughts. So, the Sharks play LA October 22nd. This is this Thursday.
Thursday, yep.
They don't play another division opponent until November 7th against the Ducks. So we got to keep that in mind, that there's going to be quite a layoff between division opponents. So they, like Buckeye was saying, they really need to make sure that they come to play on Thursday, because those points interdivision are going to be a very big deal, especially if we think the Sharks are going to be at 2-3, they're going to be fighting for that second, third spot. These division games are going to be key. Anything else that you guys wanted to wrap up on, Ian?
No, I think I've pretty much said everything I can say right now without going off the ledge.
Rocket?
Goldobin loves sushi.
Oh, there you go.
That's my favorite thing so far, is this kid loves sushi. It almost makes me want to dress up like a sushi chef and go hang out at the Glass for warm-ups.
All right, guys. Well, I just want to give a special shout out to NHL Ties. They will be doing a signed hockey memorabilia, autographed jerseys, and autographed ties from your favorite broadcasters.
Ooh.
As you guys know, Tie 99, or excuse me, he's got a Tie 99 signed tie that he will be auctioning. But NHL Ties was so gracious enough to come on and just talk with us and Brody. And really good guy, and it's going to charity to Hockey Fights Cancer, and it's awesome cause. So I would highly recommend people check that out. It's
Absolutely.
it's going to be on auctions.nhl.com.
That's so rad.
Yeah, the NHL was cool enough to host the auctions forum, and yeah, it's just a great cause. So final closing thoughts. You know, if you guys have any questions or you guys want to talk about anything, give us a shout out on those links that I posted at the beginning of the show. Talk to any one of us from the Pucknology crew. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel down below. You'll get a update whenever we're on the air. And check out pucknology.net, where you can find some great articles by Rocket, by Ian, by Puck Guy, by AJ, by Chris, the cast you know and love. We also write too. So thanks again for watching, and good night.